In today's show, Jerami Grant goes nuts in the fourth quarter and the Blazers get an entertaining and fun win in Indianapolis against the Pacers. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So start your days with it, make it your first listen, and make it part of your daily routine. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Today's show, we're talking about a fun win over the Pacers. Jerami Grant delivers down the stretch. The Blazers, on a second night of a back-to-back, go into Indianapolis and get an entertaining win. Just like a legitimately fun game that they won down the stretch because their best players made plays when they needed them to. We'll do our fastest recap in the West. We'll appreciate Jerami Grant a little bit, as well as DeAndre Ayton and Malcolm Brogdon, the Blazers' young vets getting it done. And then we'll talk about an identity this team is forming. They are imperfect. They are not fully formed, but you know what they're going to look like on a good day, and they are having more good days than truly awful ones as of late. That's what we'll do to close the show. Let's do what we do, though. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers win 114-110 on the road against the Pacers to improve to 5-12 and start the road trip 1-1 after losing in Milwaukee on Sunday evening. Blazers down 30-34 after one, but DeAndre Ayton had 12 points in the first quarter, and more importantly, DeAndre Ayton took 8 shots in the first quarter. A huge number for him. Get him involved early, particularly again with a team that is small other than Miles Turner. It's like they don't have a bunch of other size. DA getting 8 field goal attempts in the first 12 minutes is huge, and the Blazers in that game 30-34 after one, and the Blazers took a lead into halftime when Toumani Camara hit a 3 at the buzzer. They were up 65-60, but Malcolm Brogdon had 13 in the second quarter. You have DA with 12 in the first. You have Malcolm Brogdon with 13 in the second, and then Jerami Grant's going to have a big fourth if you stick with me. They were getting contributions up and down the roster. 83 all after 3 quarters, a kind of that lackluster third quarter. The Blazers shot really well again and played really well again. They had 68 in the first half against the Bucks. They have 65 in the first half against the Pacers. Pacers are, the worst defensive team in the league, but and the Bucks have struggled a little bit in that area. But you don't apologize. You go get buckets, and the Blazers went and got buckets in these back-to-back halves, and then they come out in the third quarter against Indiana and they shoot 30% from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, and it's like, oh. Like, are they going to have another one of these halves where they just shoot, 30% and they just can't score? But they get the performance they needed. Jerami Grant scored 17 in the fourth quarter. There were 5 lead changes. The Blazers actually took the lead for good with 6.5 minutes on a Jerami Grant little runner from the right side. But it was dicey. It was a 1-point game with just under 4 minutes left, and Jerami Grant hit a right wing 3 and kind of spread his legs trying to draw a foul, anticipating contact, but still swished the 3 because he was hot. Listen, another challenge that went against him. Blazers, from a 1-point game, Jerami Grant hits that 3 to go up 4. They build a 6-point lead with about just over 2 minutes left, and Malcolm Brogdon drives in and smokes a layup. But the Pacers try to push the other way, and Bruce Brown kind of gets bothered by Matisse Thybulle. The box score has it officially as Shaedon Sharpe steal. Thybulle caused the steal. Credit to Shaedon Sharpe, but Thybulle caused the steal. Caused the turnover that Shaedon Sharpe corrals. He corrals it, goes in for a huge dunk. Clock ticking towards 2 minutes. 6-point game. He's going to dunk, put the Blazers up 8, and ice this bad boy. It was like one of those possessions where if the Blazers score, they win. Malcolm Brogdon smokes a layup, but they get it back. Shaedon Sharpe's going to highlight dunk, put Miles Turner on a poster, but Turner blocks it. They call a foul. Sharpe's going to head to the free throw line. Just like the game in Milwaukee last night, where it's like, great, good defense, but got called for a foul, head of the free throw line. In this case, a chance to go up 8. But of course, they're going to review. That's why you save your challenge, why you save your timeouts. They review it, and just clocks it. We're just above 2 minutes right now. And they go to the review, and it seems pretty clear to me. It was one of those where it's like, I thought if they had called it clean on the floor, it would have stayed clean, but they called a foul on the floor. So when they looked at it a million times, it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a foul still. But then they kept looking at it, and then they talked, and they looked at it again. And I knew when they went back to the monitor that second time, it was bad news for the Blazers. They said it was a clean block, which it was on the ball, but his offhand Miles Turner's offhand was on flat palm against Shaedon Sharpe's chest. They call that incidental contact. I would call that very surprising. This one to me was more egregious than the Giannis Antetokounmpo one. Back-to-back nights, the Blazers, tough calls. But unlike the game against the Bucks, DeAndre Ayton made sure that he grabbed the rebound. Against the Bucks, DeAndre Ayton kind of fumbled the rebound, so even though he was the one who had it, he didn't have it in his hands, but no one else was going to get it. It was his ball, but he didn't have it. He grabbed this one. He's holding it. So when they do go to the monitor and say, oh, actually a clean block, well, the Blazers get the ball back because they had that immediate possession, and they come out of the possession, and DeAndre Ayton steps on the sideline, and they get the ball back. Ball don't lie, or something like that. The ball does lie. I don't think the ball cares about the truth in that situation. And so in a 6-point lead with a chance to ice it, with a layup attempt and a dunk attempt and another possession, over. And so now it's like, Aaron Nesmith hits a 3 after what I thought was a pretty good defensive possession by the Blazers, but Nesmith hits a 3. He actually ended up getting a good look, but the first little bit of that possession was pretty good defense. So now it's a 3-point game with 1:53 left. Of course, Jerami Grant doing what he does, delivers huge layup to give him 17 of his 34 in the fourth quarter. Blazers, that put them back up 5. They built a 6-point lead when Malcolm Brogdon hits a free throw. In there, though, in between those two possessions, about a minute of time in between those two possessions, Matisse Thybulle throws a just absolutely bonkers 2-no-1 behind the back turnover in a 5-point game with a minute left. What's going on here? But Brogdon splits a couple free throws. Blazers go up by 6. Pacers get a layup, 4-point game. Matisse Thybulle the Blazers call timeout. Matisse Thybulle's the inbounder, and he throws just a pass to no one. You can say DeAndre Ayton should have fought to the ball, and he absolutely should have. But the Blazers, they get the ball with 30 seconds left, and just over 30 seconds left. Up 4, you inbound the ball, you get fouled, or you at least just burn clock, and end up, give the Pacers the ball back with 10 seconds left up 4, and you're going to win, right? You're going to win. But instead, they turn the ball over, sideline out of bounds. Matisse Thybulle, who's already had one bad turnover in the final minute, has another bad turnover in the final minute. I think he's got to just throw the ball to Jerami coming to the ball quickly. It's a little bit harder pass, but he's got to trust himself. Instead, he doesn't trust it, and DeAndre Ayton is just kind of watching. He's just kind of like, oh, whoops, and doesn't come to the ball. Matisse Thybulle throws it to no one. Miles Turner gets a steal, and the Pacers get a run-out Bruce Brown dunk, and all of a sudden, it's a 2-point game with 28 seconds left. Dang. You've survived so many times here. They cut it to 1, and Jerami Grant responded. They get it back to 3, and Jerami Grant responded. Now it's back to 2, and what do? Well, first of all, you take Matisse Thybulle out of the inbounds position. Shaedon Sharpe inbounds the ball. They get it to Malcolm Brogdon. I understand sort of the logic here, and I'll back up. This is the slowest recap in the West, by the way. But if Brogdon inbounds the ball, there's too many bad free throw shooters to inbound the ball to. Matisse Thybulle, he's playing down the stretch. You don't want him shooting free throws in a foul situation. Shaedon Sharpe has not consistently shot free throws well in his career. It's kind of weird, but he hasn't. So you don't really want to inbound the ball to him and have him do it. Have him be like, those are the guys who can get open. You want the ball in Brogdon's hands. He's a better free throw shooter. He's a better ball handler, better decision maker. Like, I get why you want him out in the court and not passing the ball in, but the Blazers just sort of like general lack of passers really showed up, and Matisse had two bad ones. But they get the ball into Brogdon. Pacers is a 4-second difference or 5-second difference. Pacers choose not to foul, which I think I agree with in a 2-point game. They had timeouts. If you get a stop, you get a chance to win the game or tie the game. And the Blazers absolute super duper everyone hide in the corner ISO for Brogdon. I would have double teamed. The Blazers had 4 dudes that could hold hands standing in the corner. Just go run another defender at him. Like, they have terrible spacing. They're telling you what they want to do. They want it to be Brogdon and no one else. They don't double team. Bruce Brown's a good defender. Malcolm Brogdon didn't care. Drives into the lane, pull up, from the left wing, driving to his right, stop, fade, hits a little jump shot in the lane. Blazers go back up by 4. Pacers miss a shot at the end. That's would have cut it to 1, but that was over when Brogdon iced it with 5.5 seconds left, and the Blazers win 114-110. That's your fastest recap in the West. Yeah, that took 10 minutes. Usually I do that in like 3.5, but the game was fun down the stretch, and I wanted to talk about it and sort of weigh it on the chaos of the final 2 minutes. Let's talk box score and Jerami Grant in the second segment, but first, let's talk FanDuel, America's number 1 sports book. Right now, they want to give you some free bets. If you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn, they want to give you $150 in bonus bets to play with once you put in a $5 money line bet and you win. So pick any game. Blazers this week, you get a couple more cracks at it with Cleveland and Utah. Bet with your heart and pick the Blazers to win in either of those games. Once they get another road win, you get $150 in bonus bets to play with, so then you can bet on things like spreads, over-unders, you can live bet games, you can place futures bets on things. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to find it on FanDuel, not just the NBA, but all of the other sports. And the only way you're going to be able to find it is you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That way you can get your bonus bets when you win. One more time for you, that's FanDuel.com/LockedOn, America's #1 sports book. All right, fastest recap in the West went way too long, so we're still rocking here. Here's what happened in the box score from that game for you. Jerami Grant, as I mentioned, 17 in the fourth quarter, finished with 34 points on 12 of 18 shooting, had 7 rebounds. In the fourth quarter, Jerami Grant had 17 points and 4 boards. Monster game to deliver for the Blazers. DeAndre Ayton really good in this one, 22 points and 13 boards. Only took 5 shots after the first quarter, but got to the free throw line, took 4 free throws. He's doing it. He's taken 10 free throws in the last 2 games. Oh my goodness, it's happening. Malcolm Brogdon, 24 points, 7 assists. The game to ice it, the shot to ice it. He was solid as heck. Shaedon Sharpe, 11 points, 5 boards, 6 assists. Scoot Anderson came off the bench, 13 points on 4 of 10 shooting. He had 3 boards and an assist, 4 turnovers, and committed 5 fouls. Scoot had a funny game. He took a catch and shoot 3 from the left wing for his first shot and missed it. Or his second shot, he actually had a really nice mid-range pull-up at the elbow, and that's the shot I want to see him make consistently because I know he can get to that shot. But we'll see. Because if he can get to mid-range jumpers, he can start getting to the hard right-hand drives to the rim, and that's what he wants to do. But he takes his second shot as a left wing 3, and he missed it so bad. He missed it so bad. It was so gross. It missed the whole rim, and it hit the side of the backboard opposite him. So he's on the left wing, shoots it over the rim, hits the right side of the backboard on the right side of the rim. Just a nightmare shot. And then he made 2 other threes in the game, and they were both off the dribble. Extremely funny. He missed all of his shots in the paint, but he made some mid-rangers. One was right on the edge of the paint. So a little floater from the right-hand side that I guess he took off from outside the paint. He landed with both feet in the paint, so depends on what you want to call it. But I thought Scoot was not like really special in this game, but come off the bench and score in double figures. That's it. Start taking baby steps, and Scoot has done a good job taking baby steps. I mean, the decision-making and the driving into traffic without the sort of burst I thought he might have to get himself free is like a issue for another day, and do not look at his historically poor efficiency to begin his career. Just focus on the baby steps. On the other side for the Pacers, 33 points for Tyrese Haliburton. He had 20 in the first half. Blazers kind of held him. I guess is 13 in the second half really holding someone in the check? That would be a 26-point game. He scored less in the second half. 11 and 8 for Miles Turner. 11 points for Bruce Brown, 9 for Obi Toppin, 9 for Buddy Hield, 11 for Ben Mathurin, and 7 for Aaron Nesmith. Andrew Nembhard, came in and closed the game. He was on the court at the end of the game. He finished with 8 and had a couple big buckets in the fourth quarter. The Pacers didn't shoot well in this game. They averaged 39 three-point attempts per game. The Blazers, they only took 33 against the Blazers. You can't really, the nerds will tell you, and I think Tom Haberstroh, like a professional nerd, has even mentioned this on the Blazers broadcast, that like the nerds will tell you that you can't really stop a team from making threes. The thing you can do defensively is stop them from attempting threes. There's just like, there's so much variance that like, you know, it's like, you know, when you see it when a team plays good defense, but like generally speaking, the sort of analytical world thinks that you can't really prevent someone from making threes. You can prevent them from taking threes. And the Blazers did. They shot 6 less than they normally do, and they missed some easy ones. Give them less opportunities, though, they have less chances. They averaged 39 a game. They only took 33. They only made 8 of them, 24% from 3. On the other side, the Blazers 9 of 18 from 3. They didn't take that many threes, only 18. That's not enough, but they made them. 9 of 18 from 3. They cashed in. Jerami goes 3 of 3. Scoot Henderson 2 of 3. Duop Reith made the only 3 he took. Shaedon Sharpe and Malcolm Brogdon each hit a 3. Tumani Kamara hit a 3 at the buzzer of the first quarter or the first half. Like they weren't chucking in this game. They were driving into the paint and trying to get paint points against a team that does not have a lot of rim protection, particularly in the minutes Miles Turner sits. But even when Miles Turner's out there, if you can get him away from the rim or get him so he's just like not right there in front of you, you can go and get shot attempts. Blazers took 46 shots in the paint. It's a good number. It's 50, I think, is the sort of number I've made up for them. But like, yeah, it's good. This was good process against a team that's not very good on defense and shot making. You win games because you make shots. Jerami Grant when the Blazers have won games, the last 2 games, their last 2 wins rather, Jerami Grant's gone nuclear. That's the trick. Have Jerami Grant have like a 90% effective field goal percentage and score 30 points. Simple, right? But really, it's an appreciation of Grant's he's just been hyper efficient, right? Like he's exactly what you need him to be. And it's, you know, in that win against Utah, he was 10 of 13, 5 of 6 from 3 and scored 30 points. And then he comes in tonight and goes 12 of 18 from the floor, hit 3 threes, made all 7 of his free throws and had 34 points. Like, you know, he had a huge jump ball tie-up at the end of the game against Miles Turner. They gave him a block. I didn't know you got scored for a block on that. But Miles Turner drives in the lane, and Jerami Grant just cuffed it, put it right in his elbow, and said, "Give me that rock." It was a tie-up and a jump ball. Blazers win the jump ball. Like, it was just, he had 4 rebounds in the fourth quarter. It's probably an unfair formula to have Jerami Grant have to shoot, 65% from the floor and score 30 points for them to win, but he's been doing it. He's been delivering. He's not always going to be that, but I think when he is that, it's like real appreciation for him. I mean, he's not supposed to be this, right? Like, he was supposed to be a sidekick or a third option on a team with Damian Lillard, and instead he's the Blazers' best offensive player right now. Probably their best player, period, right now, without Anthony Simons healthy. I think, I don't think that's controversial. Maybe it is. I don't think it's controversial, but like, it's, I think on this particular podcast, I've said a bunch of times that I haven't really appreciated the like aesthetics of Jerami Grant. Like, I just think his game is kind of ugly sometimes. When the ball goes in, everybody looks good. And when the ball has gone in for Jerami Grant in recent games, he's a bucket. Like, dude scores. I think his defensive impact has not been where I've hoped it would be this season. It just hasn't. He hasn't been as good as he has been at times in his career. I think he's, for whatever reason, he just hasn't been. But like, this offense, go give him the ball, 34 points, 17 in the fourth quarter. Pacers probably should have sent 2 guys at him at some point, but they chose not to, and they chose not to send 2 guys at Malcolm Brogdon when the Blazers had 4 players camped in the corner at the end of games. It kind of just seems like that's not something they wanted to do. They wanted to stay home and say, I bet Jerami Grant won't go 12 of 18 and score 30 points. He did. That's how you lost. But Jerami Grant was great. Like, I don't have a hot take other than to say, like, when a player plays like this for a week, and he's had a run in him, like he's had a run, appreciate it, right? Like, he had 4 steals and he's made 5 threes against Phoenix, 5 threes against Utah, 3 threes against Milwaukee, 3 threes against tonight. He's making his shots. He had 4 threes the other night against the Lakers. Like, he's making long range jumpers. He's taking less terrible ISO mid range, and when he is getting into the sort of that ISO moments, he's getting himself to the free throw line. He's just been good on offense. He's been good, and to give him his propers where they're due. Real quick, DeAndre Ayton, I thought, was really good early in this game. And the Blazers, they just leave so much meat on the bone with DA. Some of it is his fault. He's just not a good screener, and it's really hard to run good pick and rolls with someone who isn't a good screener. He just doesn't make contact, and when he does make contact, he doesn't roll hard. So he'll let a guy, fight over him, and you don't necessarily need to hit incredibly hard Steven Adams screens every time, but you kind of need it. Like, the screen needs to be something to navigate, and it's not always that with DA, and that's a him problem. And then sometimes he'll hit a screen, get a switch, and the Blazers will just look him off. They'll just say, I can't get it to you, or let's do something else. They had one late in the fourth quarter where he gets a switch with Nembhard on his back, and he's open basically the entire possession, and it ends with Jerami Grant hitting a three. But it's like, that's like, you gotta give it to him. It's just with DA, there just seems to be a lot of meat left on the bone. Whether it's his teammates not getting him the ball or him not working hard to get to make it easier for him. He had a rolling in this game. He's a smooth operator. His game, when it's rolling, looks easy because he has such a fluid-looking jump shot, and he gets into it so quickly, and he has such great touch. He's like, the rim doesn't move. He makes it look easy when he gets it rolling. But I think the hard stuff, both him fighting for hard position and the Blazers really looking for him and making a point of it, it doesn't stay there the whole game. And even with that, he had 22 and 13. This was one of his best games of the year. I thought it was really good. I thought he played really well against the Bucks. Just physically played really well. If he's getting to the free throw line and he's going to shoot, 4+ free throws a night, that would be a career high for him. You got to celebrate him. I thought DA was good. And Malcolm Brogdon was. People were a little frustrated, I saw online, about Malcolm Brogdon kind of hijacking the Blazers' late game offense. And I talked about it on the show yesterday that it's at some point he just it has to be that way because of the roster. You wish it was different, but this, how many dudes can dribble and run a real pick and roll? How many guys can pass off the dribble and make plays for others? And when everyone else needs to be set up, it leaves Malcolm Brogdon with a lot of creation responsibility, and that's not who he is at his core. He's someone who looks to score. So he's put in a weird spot, and he's kind of playing to his character sometimes, and people are like, he shoots too much. I mean, that's who he is, right? That's kind of who he is. But I thought in this game, he wasn't hyper efficient and 9 of 20 from the floor, but made plays when they needed him to hit a big bucket down the stretch. And he's a solid presence. And this is the young vets, right? The Blazers are going to win behind these guys, Grant and DA and Malcolm Brogdon, because the young players, Sharp has been up and down. Tamani Kamara just doesn't have it right now on offense. And Scoot Henderson is a long way away. It's the young vets are going to take them there, and in a game like this, that's who delivered. Let's talk a little bit about identity for the Blazers. I think you're starting to see who they want to be. You're not always seeing you're sometimes not seeing it fully formed, but you're starting to see who they want to be. Let's talk a little about that to close the show. But first, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. I play Prize Picks on my phone. But you can play it online if you want, and go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. And while you're there, use the promo code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Here's how Prize Picks works. They got sports. You look at the whatever sport you want to play. For me, it's the NBA. It's what I'm most comfortable with. So I go to the NBA tab on the app, and then it's just projections that Prize Picks sets, their stat projections, and my brain. That's all. No sharks, no field, no nothing. Just you versus Prize Picks projections. You pick more or less than their projections. So it's things like blocks, points, rebounds, assists, steals. And once you win, you get your money quickly. And right now they want to give you some free cash. So go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get a first deposit match up to $100. They're matching you dollar for dollar on your first deposit up to $100, but you got to go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use that code LOCKEDONNBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Portland, as we sit here, is 5-12. 17 games into the season, and the sort of 20-game mark that people like to say. People like me for sure. But people like me like to say, okay, now it's real. Now they've played enough games that it's real. We're creeping up towards it, right? We're creeping up towards the no longer you can just throw stuff out, a small sample size. You can kind of say, this is, we're getting a feel for who they are. And so this time next week, they'll have played 20 basketball games. Actually, I think they're going to play on Tuesday. So but they might play Monday. But either this time next week or 24 hours after that, they'll have played 20 games and it'll be real, right? We'll be able to say, okay, this is real. But I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that this is what we've seen from them is kind of who they're going to be. They're flawed. They're the worst offensive team in the NBA. And when they've won recently, it's because Jerami Grant's gone nuclear. That's not a winning formula. You can't do that every night. I guess you could do it once a week, it seems like, because JG's been really good. But like that's not a winning formula. I think they were better execution-wise against the Pacers, but some of that's just the Pacers are worse on defense. So the same stuff you're trying to do against other teams just works because they don't keep the ball in front as well, and they don't, and they let you get to the rim. Like when the Blazers have won their last 2 games, they've played the worst 2 defenses in the league, Utah and Indiana. Can they score against like decent defenses? Well, Milwaukee's a not decent defense, and the Blazers couldn't score at all against them in the second half after a monster first half. They're flawed, right? And because of lack of skill set and lack of creativity from the coaching staff, their offense can look really boring. I think it has probably a little more to do with sort of their overall talent level, but like in terms of like, here's what they want to do on offense. It's not always clear, but I thought they were sharper against Indiana. I thought one of the things I liked that they did was they split the floor, so it was either Brogdon or Grant operating up top, and one of them was on the opposite wing, one pass away. So if you're going to show help to the middle of the court to prevent a pick and roll, you have, their Blazers' other best creator, other best scorer, other best offensive player, one pass away. And in the corners, it's Thibault and Shaedon Sharpe, who are good cutters out of the corners and will shoot it if they get it. That kind of sort of simple stuff starts to look a little bit better. And if they continue to do that, you're starting to, check some boxes. But the offense is very good. It's going to be bad all year. I think that's safe. I believe I identified maybe 4 games in the season that shooting was going to be an issue. And folks, it's an issue. And yet, 50% from 3 tonight. But that's who they're going to be on offense. But the identity comes on the other side of the floor, and it comes from, in some ways, because the offense is bad. The way that they've stayed in games is that they're just pesky and plucky and tough, and that they just don't get cheated. Sometimes they get beat. Sometimes they give up, sometimes they shoot 28% from the floor and blow a 26-point lead in the final 31 minutes of a game. Sure. That'll happen. But 21 minutes of that game, they blew that lead. But like they stay in games, and they were in this Pacers game because they're just tough. The Pacers play incredibly fast, and the Blazers were able to impose their will a little bit on this game. They were able to play at their speed. They were able to ugly it up and play at their preferred pace. Early on, the first 4 minutes of the game, the Pacers were flying and getting easy buckets in transition, and they even showed a clip on the broadcast in which the Pacers got a basket like 3 seconds in the shot clock, and Chauncey Billups like turning around looking at the crowd like, ugh. Uh-oh, like it's going to be like that, like they're going to like boat race us, right? It's going to be a track meet. But they didn't give up crazy transition numbers. Like they didn't get walloped. The Pacers had 9 fast break points. The Blazers were able to put their stamp on this game. They were able to play their style. And it's not always going to work that way because sometimes the offense just won't cooperate, and sometimes really good offenses, and the Pacers, to be clear, are a really good offense, are just going to make it brutal on you, right? And you're going to get got. But I think for now, and I think this is going to hold up for a lot of the season, is that the Blazers are just tough enough to hang in games. Right now, according to NBA.com, the Blazers are 15th in defense. That's after their game, but not after all the games have finished, as I'm recording that on Monday night, so they might drop a little bit. But hovering right below average is what I think they're going to be, hovering right below that 15 mark. Like I think they're going to be in that middle to bottom third, depending on how things get. But I think a slightly below average defense is what they're going to be all year. And that might not seem like a compliment, but from where they've been the last 4 years, to be a slightly below average to average defense is a massive leap after 4 straight seasons with a bottom 5 defense in the league. And having an average defense and the ability to have someone like Jerami Grant get hot and someone like Malcolm Brogdon, and when they have Anthony Simons back, Malcolm Brogdon maybe coming off the bench and like propping up a bench unit, like, and Scoot Henderson figuring it out and Shaedon Sharpe like regaining a groove. He's struggled of late. They have a chance every night to be competitive. They're still going to lose more games than they win. A lot more games probably, right? They're going to lose 50 of them or something. And I think that's fine. But what you want to see is a team that kind of can stay in it and doesn't get washed out and doesn't like have these games where it's like, well, see ya. And they've only had a couple this year where it's like the middle of the second quarter and you're like, uh-oh. You know, even early on, the games they lost, the game they lost to Philly by like 30, it's like it wasn't until that third quarter the game got away from them. The game against OKC, they got walloped, right? But for the most part, even when they've lost, they've been within shouting distance and not getting just run out of the gym. Even if they're down 11 or 15 the whole game, or 9 to 13 the whole game, it's like they're plucky, they're pesky, they stick around, and you can appreciate that, or I can appreciate that. I don't know if everyone can appreciate a team that mostly loses but kind of keeps it close. But in a season where I have sort of said it's going to be important to hold on to your joy with this group, I always say that, but it's important, particularly with just like a bad team. It's like they beat the Pacers. They played pretty well. Jerami Grant's playing great. Malcolm Brogdon is totally functional. DeAndre Ayton's playing his best basketball of the season this week as we move forward. 15 plus games in. Took him maybe 15 games to get it, but he's playing his best basketball over the last couple of games. And this team is going to be, most nights they're going to be in the fight. They're going to drag you into at least watching the second half because they're tough. And I think a toughness you can appreciate. So if you are able and you find joy in it, even in the losses, hold on to it because that is the best we got. And sometimes life doesn't offer you much. So hold on to the joy that you have. That is going to do it for today's show. Come back for tomorrow. We do it again 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.